Hey everybody, welcome to the IO Beta Tournament replay. This is round 5, Group C, with Morgan, Relic, Zorbaz, and NC Game Wizard. I believe none of these players had won any matches in the tournament at all, so one of them will go home with a victory. I'm Philothanic, and we have seen this map before. 2 past games, there was a scavenger found over here that won, and a scientist found right in this area that one. So some other options that we've seen players found expansive over here, but I don't think that's close enough to ice, and if you do it, you want to go into this basalt. Seeing an expansive over here, we've seen forced scientists down here in this area, I believe. Then there was the third one, I don't remember. Definitely looking at these scavenger spots. This scientist spot over here, Relic is going to take another potential scientist spot. And might have been. This one seems a little bit forced, but we'll have to see if he can get over into this ice. Zorbaz taking that other scientist spot that Tudback did in the last game that we saw, but he shifted over to where Tudback, it would have been a better found, splitting. Well, I guess he gets 4 here. Morgan does take that scavenger spot. Then we have a Nomad with NC Game Wizard going for double. This is a cave.
A scientific HQ has been upgraded.
Yes, on a cave. So triple lows for NC Game Wizard once he recognizes that he has another claim to put down, which he does. That will give him a decent amount of silicon income, and it won't diminish. The only problem with that is 3 lows is probably not enough to get him the entire game. Both of our scientists have upgraded to HQ2, as has our scavenger. Scavenger is going. Well, what is this? This is a way large overcommitment into aluminum from Morgan here. It's going to be very hard to transition these aluminum tiles out into something useful in the late game. Sure, aluminum's really expensive now, but it's not going to be expensive in the future if he sells all of that aluminum down. Relic taking this very high carbon tile, that's going to be quite painful for Morgan, as it bumps down his carbon input to 2.4 instead of the 4.5. Morgan also going a little bit spread out here. I don't necessarily like this single elemental quarry. It probably would have been better to put down a second ion collector. There usually is a spike in fuel somewhere in the beginning on IO as more garages are built. From the colony, garages do use 0.1 fuel each. So early spike in fuel, early spike in power. Players who can get into that fuel and power early often do well. I would have liked to see a second ion collector there. Zorbaz is just plowing through these upgrades. Going into a couple of ion collectors. I'd rather see these ion collectors on this ice instead of over here. That way you can rotate them later into something else. NC Game Wizard is actually doing quite fine in upgrades, despite having a little bit less silicon than you would perhaps like. He is going into double carbon, some electronics, and that aluminum. Relic, everyone at HQ3. Relic is going for a nice red over here. Also, probably not enough into these ion collectors. In fact, nobody is heavy enough into these ion collectors, so still anybody. Zorbaz has 2. That's the best. That's probably why Zorbaz is currently in an early lead. All that might money
Scientific HQ has been upgraded.
left on the table. Especially easy for our scavenger up here to move into double of those early. He is going into nuke plant into, sorry, chemical refineries that are hidden as nukes. You might want to hide those as something else, because those nukes are a really tempting target. Oh wait, oh I'm sorry. That is backwards, that's confusing. I need to get rid of the parentheses for those. They are nukes disguised as chemical refineries, that is much better. Much better. Morgan might be able to pay through all of his debt. The only issue that he has is nukes are... Uranium's quite expensive, so those nuclear plants are good right now, but they will not be in the future. Also, I probably would like to see the goon on the tip instead of the edge. Zorbaz is the first HQ4, going into a blob of nukes over here, and that's immediately frozen. As you can see, Scientist still has the EMP bonus. Actually gets half nuke, half glass. Zorbaz is in C debt already, so might have been better to go for double nukes, quadruple nukes, and try to pay down a bunch of that debt. He's gonna have to be careful with debt right now, losing a lot of money to food. There's no easy way to get into food at this point. Relic also HQ4.
The black market
Nice little mutiny from Morgan. That means his oxygen's going to have to ship over instead of, going direct to his base. And NC Game Wizard still keeping up despite having, I guess, this silicon is just barely enough. So he's keeping up with the pack. Used that return to claim ability to get out of some of this aluminum, go into some uranium. That's a nice thing about nomads, is you can go heavy into some primary resources and then get out of them later when they disappear. Let's take a look at Morgan. Morgan is also at HQ4, lagging behind the pack a little bit. Not what you want to see as a scavenger. These aluminum coming back to bite him a little bit. Aluminum's 26, and definitely, probably at this point, wishes that he had those claims maybe to go into some more fuel or others, because as a scavenger, you need all those claims. And without teleportation, these claims over here soon going to be wasted and useless. Zorbaz first HQ5. He's left himself a bit of a target, taking that upgrade. NC Game Wizard is going to try and buy him out. If you're going to make this buyout, what you prefer to do is buy that third tip into yourself. So that way when you get to this point, you can sell out and you'll get the benefit of all that extra money. Just make it a little bit easier. Zorbaz is not going to be able to defend himself. NC Game Wizard going to take out a early buy. Zorbaz gotta watch your debt, gotta take a look and see how much cash other people have when you upgrade. Also consider if somebody's going to gang up on you. So NC Game Wizard with that buy and the Scientist put himself in a pretty good place. Morgan is HQ5, so has made use of his claims and gotten better past the Relic, who lagging behind a little bit at this point, and but NC Game Wizard with a pretty sizable lead. The only problem with NC Game Wizard right now is he's at HQ4 and in C debt. Needs to get that upgrade. These water processors are losing so much money, $70 a second. Looks like NC Game Wizard does not have auto off turned on, or has opted to force those on. So definitely a bit of a mistake here, but NC Game Wizard
Just
in trouble.
disappointed
Morgan
in
buying
you.
into him. If Relic decides to get into this buy, NC Game Wizard could be in trouble. Morgan has enough to get to that 4th stock, but it looks like NC Game Wizard should be able to defend himself.
We caught red-handed.
Relic could get in here and could help Morgan take out the leader. It seems like something that Relic would want to do at this point before the Nomad has the chance to upgrade. But too little, too late. NC Game Wizard does defend himself. He is in debt though, so that is something he's going to have to worry about. Relic deciding to buy into Morgan. That seems like a mistake. So yeah, as chat said, I think NC Game Wizard moved into these electronics on HQ2 just to make those upgrades a lot easier. Moved into a bunch of carbon, has all the base resources that he needed to get up. The game is deciding to auction off geothermal borehole. Can any of our players make use of geothermal borehole?
Congratulations.
I don't think NC Game Wizard can. There are no vents near any of his bases. So that was probably definitely not worth the money at all. Relic still struggling at HQ4. Very different game from last time. These two scientists have kept the price of water low with their bonuses. In fact, the Zorbaz AI says water's too low. I'm going to go straight into fuel. There's so much money that players could have been making from fuel, but organs in fuel, but probably not enough. Although he's making great money on farm, so can't blame him too much for not going into that fuel, but it'd be nice to see some of these chems into fuel, more fuel itself, so that way NC Game Wizard doesn't get all that fuel from his sub. That Zorbaz sub is going into 2 off-world markets. Not the best use of money, although launches are looking a little bit better in Group C at 24 rather than the 22, which was the highest I saw in the Group B. NC Game Wizard is not making enough money from his sub. He is in debt, still in HQ4.
HQ has been upgraded.
So, very interesting. Morgan only needs... Well, he's about halfway of the buy, so he needs another 191k to take out NC Game Wizard. NC Game Wizard still a long ways away from taking out Morgan. Morgan still can defend himself at any time. And Morgan's at HQ5. How much does it cost for the upgrade? 63k. And those are farms instead of silicon. That's a little bit of an issue for NC Game Wizard. You definitely want to be able to get up to HQ5 so you can take care of business, get more claims. Does have shipping in these over here. That's an interesting take. Not what I would have expected. With this cave here, he could have this triple silicon. Still going hard into Morgan. I think that's going to pay off. What are optimizations looking like? No optimizations for NC Game Wizard. A few coming out for Relic and the most for Morgan. Morgan's got a decent chance of finishing this game up. Also, if he gets that by an NC Game Wizard, it may probably push him to victory, but a lot of that's going to depend on what Relic does. Relic definitely a chance to play spoiler here, as Morgan is in debt. Relic's finally going for some patents. Surprised that it's taken until Soul 4 for patents to come out. Going to defend himself. Seems Seems like an okay idea. I'd stop here though. No one else is really interested in getting into Relic. Relic needs to put that money into more optimizations, more patents. Relic's going a little bit too hard into these oxygen. I think, although they will make a handsome amount of cash, 1.8k a second for Relic. Morgan just lost a lot of money. Where did that all go to? That just paying off his debt? Must have been a debt payment. We can check really quick by looking at the charts and graphs and see how much Morgan has paid in interest charges. Only 39k. But a lot of power, a lot of water soul purchased. 40k, 88k, 75k, yeah, all that adds up into your debt. So that's where his money comes from. Still out earning NC Game Wizard though. HQ5 to HQ4 will do that. NC Game Wizard still... Well, he's losing so much money off of these water processors. It is crazy. Why are these still on?
Successful.
Why are these water processors on? It's so painful to watch. There's so much money. Does he not have any oxygen? Yeah, no oxygen from NC Game Wizard. There's definitely plenty of oxygen right below him, so a mistake that's coming to bite him. These basalt platforms are doing great. Relic probably would like to put up a few of them. Strictly better than the iron mines, that steel mills that he's currently building.
The black market is online.
Relic is buying into Zorbaz. That's a good idea. And Zorbaz is finally maybe thinking about making some money. Keeps on transitioning though. You can sort of see his fuel is still so good. But if Zorbaz had more ice, the sub AI is not using that ice properly, so we won't talk too much about that. NC Game Wizard looks like he's crawling back into Morgan simply because Morgan's in too much debt. Paid off too much of that debt. Doesn't seem to have enough income. And NC Game Wizard just figured out how to make a lot of money moving these basalt reactors. Great idea. These water processors aren't losing $1 bajillion anymore, so that really goes into where his money's coming from. But the EMP on the blob still gets to buy though. NC Game Wizard with 2 subs versus Relic with not a lot of cash. NC Game Wizard had realized that these water processors were losing him so much money. That would have been his game to take a long time ago. This looks like NC Game Wizard will probably clean this up, so we'll just put this on fast forward. Relic has a lot of money, but I don't think it's enough. NC Game Wizard gonna make a good amount of money from this Morgan pickup. Also finally gets to HQ5, so going to be able to use those extra 5 claims. Great effect. Needs to go into a little bit of everything. Needs to get some oxygen. Although his subs are keeping that oxygen price a little bit lower. Moving into items that aren't necessarily making money. Well, this is interesting. Relic making money faster than NC Game Wizard is in NC Game Wizard completely. No, NC Game Wizard will be making more money once he puts up all of his buildings. Still should be the favorite to win unless these debt ticks kill him. Fuel is finally going down in price as the subs continue to move into it. and keep it low. These assault platforms are doing great for Zorbaz. Zorbaz giving NC Game Wizard so much money, but Relic finally making money. This oxygen price has not dropped at all, so Relic might be able to win off of the strength of his oxygen. Yeah, it looks like Relic is cleaning up faster than NC Game Wizard. NC Game Wizard just lagging behind at HQ5 for so long. Didn't have the income. If he was on HQ5 earlier, would have had the income to take out Morgan quicker, and then wouldn't have, I think, would have been able to out-earn Relic, but Relic's going to take it once he realizes that he has 100%. There it is, Relic takes game number 5 in Group C. This shows if you leave a scientist alone for too long, they can eventually catch back up. Well played by all these players, no glaring mistakes other than Zorbaz upgrading without looking if he could be bought out. Yeah, 11.48 food a second from these boosted farms. That's pretty crazy. The amount of money making a second, 2.3k. Also crazy. Same amount of money NC Game Wizard is making off of this sub. Now let's take a quick look at the charts and graphs. Overview. Even with all that money at the end, Relic still powering through based off of this oxygen play. There are a couple markets that were ignored too much by players the entire time. Oxygen and fuel. We go look at the resource prices. Well, multiple markets, but you can look at oxygen in the late part of the game, starting at Soul 3, it sort of climbed up here and was high for 2 whole souls. Fuel, well, fuel people rotated too much in and too far out. So that there, and then food got really expensive. Food's so hard to get into on IO, especially if you don't have the oxygen or water to support it. Those spiked. Lots of spikes and electronics. Definitely room for all our players to make money in this game.